Hi, I'm Steve. Welcome to our channel Patio Heat, where we provide a visual concept of infrared heating as well as tips for ideal patio comfort. Check out our patioheat.com website for sales and more information. We would appreciate you tapping that like button as it helps others find our channel. Now let's get heating. Alright, so here we have a residential application, and this particular application has two different seating areas here. This one here is an existing sitting area, and then the one that over here on the right is something that's going to be a new construction. I didn't model all the doors and windows and etc. as the doors all swing in towards the home itself, so that's not an issue with clearances. And then I think that's about it. So let's go ahead and look at the overall dimensions. Overall dimensions of the structure here on the left is we have 11.9 inches from outside edge to outside edge of these posts, and then over here we have 18.3 outside edge. I have a height where the cross member beams are at 7 foot 7 inches, and then the lower section here I have at 6 foot 8.5 inches. Now I utilized this. The viewer here had sent me some images as well as a elevation of the new and existing application, so I just used the elevation off of the new one to come up with the dimensions of the existing one. And just another mention here, I do have these beams that are going across here at 1 foot 8 inch apart. I have them at 8 inch heights and 4 inches wide. So that's going to be an important aspect here. So let's go over here and look at this side here real quick. Over here I have 16.6 or a quarter by 15 1/8 depth. Same heights on the beams, so that's not an issue. I know I didn't model these beams coming out as far as they do, but they do come out a little bit further. So the structure is the main thing that I would like to talk about in any case. All right, here we go on this one. So I'm going to go ahead and turn off these dimensions. Oh, and I should mention over here, I think I have the cross members according to their plan showing at 1 foot 3 13/16, which is going to be a problem if in fact these are true dimensional 4x8s. If they're something like a 3 3/4 by 7 3/4, then we might be okay with that. So something to think about, but I'll make some suggestions over here in a minute. All right, and let me just go ahead and turn off those dimensions. They do have some current heaters here right now, so their current heaters are mounted. Whoops, sorry about that. Let me turn that off for a second. So their current heaters are mounted just kind of centrally located within this space and this space here on the back side of this beam. And I believe it's actually a little bit higher than what I'm showing here. I have mine so that it's the 6 inches of clearance, but even that is not really the case. When you have a wall mount unit at 60 degrees tilt, you do need to make sure you have that 6 inches of clearance above any ceiling. Wooden structures, I'm not quite sure if that applies. So the normal clearance looks like this in the top, 6 inches around the whole top side of it. Since there's plenty of ventilation or air movement, I should say, it doesn't really require ventilation, it just requires air movement to keep the unit cool. And obviously you're not using this in a hot summer day, but if you ever were to leave it on, that's the precaution that you kind of want to think about. But anyways, yeah, so this is the 6 inches of clearance on this beam application. Now, if you looked at the footprint of heat with this application, let me just turn off that clearance issue here, that your footprint of heat is okay for the seating area that's right around here, also the seating area that's on this side here. Now, this actually might be, according to the image I saw, this might be a little bit pushed in closer to the side here. So just because that's an entry exit point over there, but I'm not quite sure of that. So let me just turn that off. Sorry about that. And yeah, so if you're the one sitting on this edge over here on this application, you probably won't feel very comfortable with these units here. Now these, they said were 3,000 watt units, and where that might be okay right here. I just don't think it would be sufficient over here. Now if you could take another unit and put it against this wall and cast that beam this direction, then I think it'd be a fine application. And then the same really applies to this as well. However, you got a window, actually it's a doorway here, but I don't think you can put a unit over here and have it cast out a beam out to here without minimizing or going against the clearance to combustible issue. So I'm not going to recommend that. And let me just 1 second. I'm going to go ahead and turn that off right now. And what I would recommend is something of this nature, where we take the 4,000 watt unit, which is 1,000 obviously above what the customer has right now, and I've essentially centered 3 units here within the span from this inside edge of the beam to the house here, and then place the units between these beams using just a piece of 1 by 1 tubular steel. I've hung the heater onto the top edge of that tubular steel, and let's see if there's anything else I should talk about. The other thing is that, that it would come down approximately, it's 9.5, 9.25 inches from the top down to the bottom here, which would bring the heater just slightly below. So if you really wanted to reduce that so that it's at the same elevation as the bottom of the beams, you'd have to modify this some other way. Maybe cut the top off and put a couple screws in on the left, or on the edges, as opposed to the top here. All right. So, but the one thing you do not want to do is you do not want to reduce the clearances or not meet the clearances to the combustibles below the unit. So the bottom of the heater has to be no higher than the bottom elevation of the beam itself. And you can see here we're meeting all the clearances. This is on the bottom of the heater is 18 inches on all 4 sides, and then 36 inches below. All right. So that's these 3 units here. This unit here I've taken and just moved it so that it's 24 inches further to the left, so that if in fact that the seating arrangement is a little bit off as far as away from this doorway, that way you get a little more heat and the space that you're looking for. So let me turn off that and look at the actual footprint of heat itself. And you might also notice that I've placed these, between, you got the heater, 1 beam here, 1 beam here. So there's 2 openings, a skip, and then 2 skip, 2 skip, 2 skip, and so on. All right, and so you can see here with the beams that come out of the heater, it's an infrared light wave, so light waves aren't visually seen. This is just a visual concept of how that might look, or how it might fit into the application. You can see over here we got a good footprint of heat that's penetrating this area fairly well. That's why I offset this. If this chair and dining set is a little bit offset, you might want to have these offset as well to accommodate for that. But you can see a nice even heat flow throughout this whole space for the most part, with the exception of just the entry exit point over here. All right. And if I didn't mention it, yeah, we got 6 inches of clearance on the top. So with this opening that I have mentioned over here, which is the, let's see here, the 1'8" opening, no issue with regards to clearance. Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and look over here on this side, and what we have here, I think we already went through the dimensions itself. And one issue I saw here is that the beams started at the center point of the post, and that is fine. And then I'm assuming that they're evenly spaced between this whole span here, and that evenly spaced when you put a 4x8 dimension there, the clearance or the span I have opening is 1 3 13/16, which I am off 7/8 of an inch. So what I've done, you can see here, if I take this, well, let's go ahead and show you the clearances to combustibles here. So this is going to be the top clearance to combustibles, and you can see that I'm just slightly penetrating on both left and right with this mounting application. So what I've done here is I've basically just taken this beam here, and we move it, what does that come out to, 7/16 of an inch, and then move this one 7/16 of an inch. And now we should have our clearance to combustibles on both left and right, and that should be no problem. And I've already done that on these other units here. So I've got 3 4,000 watt units over here. And I didn't mention this before, but like I said, the customer did have those existing 3,000 watt units here. And what I'm recommending is 4,000 watts. And if they wanted to take those old units and convert them to a 4,000, you just buy a new bulb for that. Now you can't do that with every application. Your wiring has to be rated for a 4,000 watt unit. You don't just increase a bulb just because you want more heat. You got to make sure that you're wiring, otherwise you're going to have a fire or hazard of that magnitude. So in any case, yeah, these are all 4,000 watt units that I'm recommending. And on this application here, moving these beams, I moved them all over here already, so we wouldn't have to go through all that. And now our dimensions are proper for the clearances, and you can see the lower clearance here. What I've done is basically taken the heater, this edge starting point here, and moved it out 18 inches so that our 18 inches of clearance, and I may have mentioned 16 inches, but it's 18 inches. In any case, 18 inches of clearance are met, so that's not an issue on that side. And then everything else is the same as before. Clearances are, just drop down below this beam slightly. So unless you wanted to move them up for just visual purposes, that'd be fine. And you want to go just to the top so the elevations are the same like I said before. All right, so let's get out of that and go ahead and look at the footprint of heat on this application here. And you can see that I've got 2 open bays here, 1, 2, 1, 2, and then the single one over here. So they're not centered in the overall plan here. I have them offset, and I just did that based on the fact that that's how many opens I have, and that probably the seating would be more geared towards this side here. And that's also why I pushed the heaters 18 inches away from here, is because there's a bigger slab over here, and these, like I said, posts do come out a little bit further, and there's some prep area over here, area over there. So I don't think this is going to be the focal point of heating up, and I didn't want to put in extra heaters on this left side just to heat up a few feet on this distance here. Now you can see that the table chairs that I set here might not even be what the customer is going to have, but I placed them like I have them right now just to give you a reference point. And you can see you got good footprint of heat with this application. All right, well, I hope this has helped. If you're looking for some assistance with your outdoor heating application and you would like to have us review that, send it to designs@patioheat.com. I'm Steve. Thank you very much for watching, and don't forget to hit that like button, as it's the only way we can get up there on the algorithms of YouTube. Thank you and have a great day.